Hello friends, I am OmnusI here in my lair, and today I thought I would welcome the new subscribers that we've had coming in. You're very welcome here. I certainly can't tell you how happy I am to see new faces come in, and as always eternally hope that if you come here you feel comfortable, that you, might want to contribute to the fun that we have here in Lair of OmnusI. Feel free to comment. I always respond to comments posted in, the videos. Also, I would recommend going to my OmnusI page on the Facebook, and that is where I post all of the updates, sometimes videos that only show up on the Facebook OmnusI page. You're all very welcome to be there too. I think we have a fair amount of fun there. And if you want to see the absolute most up-to-the-moment videos and information about what's going on here, that's where you can find it. Now, as far as the channel's going, things are humming along nicely. We've got some excellent new videos planned, a couple new directions that we're going in. Should be a lot of fun. Some of my most scripted videos, much less off the cuff, but I think will be genuinely informative and entertaining for you, the viewers. So I'm looking forward to that. I, again, will offer an open invitation. If any of you want to see a certain direction in the channel, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do so. But there's a couple of things that we're going to be doing, and of course I would welcome any of you who wish to enjoy those. Just let me know how much you enjoy them, and we might try some and never really go back to them again, or some we might really, delve down into and find a bunch of fun ground together that we can churn up. A few things that I'm going to be doing, however, just so you know, we're doing an arc, basically, on the collection of books that I have on an intellectual property at a time. For instance, I've started working on the Star Wars, the role-playing game, or also known as Star Wars D6, the system from West End Games, way back in the day. This is the first edition of Star Wars role-playing game out there, and since then several have come up. Wizards of the Coast took a whack at it with their D20 system from 3rd edition. And now we've also seen Fantasy Flight Games apply their Genesis system to it. So, this is a system that's got a lot of legs. The fan base for Star Wars is very deep and very rich, and they have a thirst and a hunger to see their lore come to life in a game. Exploring in places where the movies or the books don't necessarily take you, allowing you to build on your own parts of the universe and allow your friends to explore that on your own sessions, which is very cool. Honestly, if you took all of the collected creations of Star Wars fans playing these role-playing games, the amount of actual lore in the game, I'm sure, would triple easily from as much as we've created for our games. We're talking in terms of custom droids that have been made, force powers that have, that just don't fit in what's in the books, but seem like thematically they'd be appropriate. We've added on entire planets, new races, events, great battles, histories, NPCs, ships of all variety, gear of all sorts. These are things that in a vast universe, you can only contain so much in the printed page that you can buy in the stores, or at least the PDF versions in some cases. So I think that, really that's a great IP to start really diving down into. I wanted to stay away from Dungeons & Dragons for a little bit. There's certainly some titles that I wouldn't mind going back and collecting, but I really think that D&D has enough exposure. I don't need to go and keep churning that up. And I've heard that Fantasy Flight Games was having some kind of reckoning within their structure where some of their priorities were coming off of role-playing games, which I think is a shame because I thought their Warhammer game, Warhammer 40,000, was very strong. I very much enjoyed that game. And I have not had a chance to get into their take on Star Wars, but I've heard several very good things, very glowing reviews of it. As far as the narrative possibilities that the game gives you and the custom dice adding another element to the narrative style of the role play, I thought, you can always improve and always find new and cool things to do with this hobby. So it's on my radar, certainly. It'd be hard to miss if I cared at all about Star Wars, and I do. While I may not be the greatest fanatic of it, I'm more of a Dungeons & Dragons fan than a Star Wars fan, I still have very fond memories. It was one of the first role-playing games that I played that wasn't Dungeons & Dragons. My friends exposed me to it, and we've told some fantastic stories. I really do enjoy the Dungeons & Dragons universe, but the Star Wars universe has its own appeal as well. And the D6 system, the West End Games Star Wars, had some very nice exploration into the Star Wars universe. So that's what I hope to show to all of you who might have missed it. There's a lot of people, every generation coming along is moving farther and farther away from where some of these games really started. And that's kind of a shame, but it's really the evolution of the hobby, and most hobbies. Most people who play basketball, for instance, don't really need to know that the first baskets were peach baskets that were put up to give, I believe it was an alternative to football, trying to curb away from the violence, so they gave them something else to throw balls at. If you play basketball, it's far more important that you know how to do a crossover dribble or work on your three-pointers than knowing the deeper lore of where your game came from. So I think in terms of Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games, it's cool to look back at the earliest days and move forward. But the thing is, with basketball, you're not likely to find somebody who's going to nail up a couple of peach baskets and tell you, hey, we're going to use the old school rules. Obviously, the game has advanced quite a bit, and no one's in touch with the way that the game used to be played. That's not the case with Dungeons & Dragons. Those older games are still very much viable. And other role-playing games equally so. And that's why I think that the Star Wars D6 system, if you have access to the resources that really would make the game work for you, it's worth going over and showing people, hey, if you're looking for a new game, you don't want to play the Dungeons & Dragons, maybe you can find these used. Maybe you can, download the PDFs if that works better for you. But these games are still out there, and they still work great. And they still let you tell all kinds of fantastic stories and have fantastic adventures out in the stars in the Star Wars universe. No matter which era you want to play or anything like that. Although, obviously, again, because of the timeliness, the very first edition did not have anything with the prequels. Didn't have a whole lot with... I shouldn't say anything. The latest edition, I believe, did have Attack of the Clones and some of the Phantom Menace. Not much, just a little bit, because at that point West End Games was losing the franchise. But they did put out, I believe, a source book for that. Unless, maybe it was made as a fan project later, but I think I do remember seeing something about that. So, obviously, to play with all the latest stuff, yes, there have been several since then, and we'll take a look at those too in turn. But I have a number of books, quite a few, both in terms of modules, source books, and core books to go through. So there's no shortage there. We're going to be doing that, I predict, through the rest of the year. So if you really like those kind of games and you love Star Wars, I love to show all of this stuff to you. And again, as I always have to when I talk about these books, a shout out to my good friend Vince, who kind of got out of the gaming hobby, but he put those are the ones he cared the most about, and he gave them to me in trust that he could get them back if he ever picks up the dice bag again. And I hope he does someday soon. He could probably use the de-stressor. After that, I've got a number of other projects that I'm eyeing. But the Star Wars is going to be first and foremost, and I do want to make a complete sweep through. Just in the off chance he comes back for the books, and I haven't made these videos yet, it would be a crying shame, quite honestly. But I'm also looking at some of these other shorter series that I can kind of show off this game system and maybe what happened to it. You know, for example, I'm fascinated by all of these games that, you know, put out a really brilliant book or two and then just poof, vanish. I have a number of such games. I have, what was it, Forever World? Glare. Forever World Realms. It was a box set, pretty competently put together. Seemed like an interesting enough series, and a small publisher. Never found anything else for it. I looked online, and there's really no other resources for it. A lot of plans, but they died on the table. Then I also have another one called Alpha Omega. Again, beautiful book, absolutely gorgeous. They really did a fantastic job on publishing a great-looking work. But then it vanished. I don't know why, I don't know, but I like to uncover that kind of thing. So I think we might do a little bit of investigative reporting on the gaming hobby, which could be fun. We'll also keep it topical, too, because goodness knows there's enough topics that are coming out of even just everyday gaming to fill a book, to fill a couple books, to fill an entire series. So we're going to be doing that. So, you know, hopefully you are on board for that. You have any kind of interest in the gaming hobby. I'm certainly interested in being a historian for you and doing that kind of investigation because I think it's fascinating. Another thing, if you've seen any of the different playlists for this channel, Cardboard has been one that we've done a few videos on. I enjoy playing games with my son. Some of the videos tend to be a little bit long. We do try to show a complete gameplay so that if somebody wants to pick it up, they have a good primer on how to play, and we try to stick to the rules as best we can. We'll be doing more of those in the very near future as well. Quite honestly, we've neglected a little bit, but I think Alex needs a little distressor from school, so we're going to be playing some games and filming them, and he's been enjoying it. Look forward for a new playlist, too. I'm going to be having my own dice file playlist, and Alex has been kind enough to take me up on my offer to run games for him using my own role-playing game system, Dice File. And by doing this and recording it, I intend to show to you what my game is about and how it's played. Nothing fancy. Although, admittedly, this one is based off of a intellectual property that I don't own and I'm not going to be licensing. He wanted to play in the Warhammer 40,000 universe because he thinks it's fascinating, as do I. And I was only happy enough to do it for him so that I can kind of show off the range and what's capable under the hood of my system. And Warhammer can be done without too much difficulty. Sometimes it's a matter of writing up the rules as we come to new things. There are certainly elements of the game that I like to, of various games, the tabletop war games or the role-playing games that have come out for it, that I like to put into my system. For example, how a chainsword works, and why it's deadlier than just taking out a sharpened bit of metal and whacking somebody. It's a chainsaw in the form of a sword. So it's going to leave much nastier wounds, and as a result, I kind of needed to have mechanics for that. So, and we have them. So it promises to be quite a bit of fun. He's been having fun. He's had a couple of sessions already, and they've been recorded, so I'm looking forward to putting those out on video for your perusal. So that'll be entertaining, certainly. And another series that we intend to do will be a matter of looking into some of the various conflicts and personal points of view, perspectives regarding gaming in general, phrased in a courtroom scene. I'm fairly familiar with courtrooms because of some prior experience. Not that I've ever had to stand up in court, but yeah, I've had some experience. I would definitely, if you've seen my character witness videos, you already know that I do a little bit there. But as far as a standing statement, that's not too challenging. Other things that I intend to do will be a little bit more involved. But we're going to be looking at and trying to demystify some of the different perspectives on gaming. I think far too many people take their perspectives verbatim from other people without really critically thinking about why they think the way they do. So, for instance, if your approach to old school gaming might be, oh, who wants to play like a bunch of crusty old neckbeards playing in their mom's basement? Well, there are certain things that style of gaming does offer that most modern, more narrative styles don't. Levels of exploration and the unknown, the raw possibility of something truly horrible popping up and having to deal with that. Sometimes dealing with loss that a lot of people don't experience in more modern games. The absolute necessity of a player exercising their skills on behalf of a character, as opposed to just having some dice to roll. Those are elements that some people really still love about old school games that, if you dismiss it out of hand without really critically thinking about it or being exposed to that kind of thing, it could really be a shame that you might be missing out on an experience you might enjoy. Although I will say, it's not for everybody, certainly. Some people will never really get to a point where they want to play in that style, and that's fine. The gaming hobby is big enough for everybody and everybody's taste, and I truly believe that. So I'll be talking about it, but I don't really ever cast judgment. I'm quite open with my opinion that there's a place in gaming for everybody. Just like there's a place on this channel for almost everybody. As long as you can be civil with other people and add to the conversation and enjoy, talking about games and gaming, you're welcome here and you'll fit right in, I think. At some point, too, what I'm going to do, just so all of you have kind of an idea on the background, I've done videos kind of showing off shelfies and stuff like that, but I would like to itemize my collection for your perusal so that you can kind of have an educated idea on the directions that I could take my videos. Also, the limitations of my collection, too. It's awfully hard for me, for instance, to do a video series on, Big Eyes, Small Mouth, the fairly well-known role-playing game about playing in anime world. I don't own any of their materials. Not a one. That's not an avenue that I've ever really been all that interested in. I'm not an anime fan. You may say it's because I haven't been exposed to the right ones, and you're probably right. I just never really exposed myself to anime. But it doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who love to have that conversation. And if you, see that I have a lacking of something that you think would help me to, broaden my horizons, then I'd more than be willing to listen, possibly pick up a book or two, read it, and try to get into the conversation in an informed and intelligent manner. I've been expanding my horizons quite a bit lately, both older games like, going and trying to find these old Torg books, another West End Games product, but kind of a crazy idea for a campaign world where modern-day Earth gets attacked by raiders from all these other possible Earths trying to come and plunder this energy from Earth called possibility energy. It's an interesting world. It's an interesting game idea. Even to more modern games like Blades in the Dark, which has really impressed me. A game with a very small little niche. You are playing in a post-apocalyptic city, somewhat gothic, and outside are demons. So you're going to stay in the city. What your goal is to build the biggest, coolest criminal gang and, really go into the nitty-gritty about planning a job and carrying it through and fighting off rivals and steering clear of the law until such time as you can crush them under your heel. And, trying to become the most powerful, maybe the most ruthless gang out there, depending on, the interest that you have. Maybe you're going to be intellectual thieves, not so interested in killing, or maybe you're just going to be brutal assassins, killing anybody for hire or if they cross you. interesting idea, interesting world. Is that something I'd like to play all the time? No. Do I recognize that it has a niche and some people really love that game? Yes, absolutely. And I've read through it to see it's got some very interesting mechanics in it that I really want to discuss. Things like the clock system, and there's a lot that's there. Mostly the clock system really excites me because I've never really thought about doing that in a role-playing game before, and now that I know, it's something that I would love to add to other game systems. And I am kind of a magpie that way. I really do believe that the perfect game hasn't been out there yet because there's all these different elements that can always be added in to enrich a game. Another system that I'm interested in going into in more depth would be Savage Worlds. Another game system that before I used to be like, oh god. Everyone on social media, anytime somebody's like, I need a role-playing game for this scenario, everyone will chime in. Savage Worlds is what you need. It lets you do everything. And, I would kind of roll my eyes because that seems to be the popular pick. Then I picked it up, and there's nice elements into it. A few similarities to my own role-playing game of Dice File, honestly, but it's got a lot of promise. There's an element that I stole out of it as soon as I read it, the interlude, where you actually indulge in role-playing, even if the game itself isn't driven by role-play, if it's more action-oriented. There's almost always going to be a scene where your players can converse, discuss their backstory, share personal information, and I think that's really healthy for a game, and something that, if you offer small rewards, it might get people to kind of come out about their characters a little bit more. Fascinating stuff, and I was glad to read about that and expand my gaming knowledge and really purloin it. I can see that being useful in any number of games. So, yes, that is my channel in a nutshell. It's several thoughts going through my head at any time. I could go off in various directions. A couple of core things, though. We're going to be doing more Lair of OmnusI videos, which are my basic, I pick a topic on something gaming related and I discuss it at length. I miss doing those videos. It's been a little while, so we're going to be I'm shooting for one a month. We're going to be doing more Ask the Wizard videos. I've got a few questions that have come in, and I thank you for those of you who have sent in questions. If you haven't had a chance to participate in Ask the Wizard, basically what it means is you can just ask any question. Post it in the comments, either here or any of the Ask the Wizard videos, or on my Facebook channel on YouTube, or on Facebook channel OmnusI. And I make a video about your question. And it could be silly. It can be, as long as it's family appropriate, because this channel is family friendly. But yeah, whatever you pick, I will certainly look into. I love making the Ask the Wizard videos. I love the character. I love Lord Cadrian de Flynn. And it's fun exercising my personal knowledge of games and game lore and magic theory and applying it to people's questions. Even if they're silly and meant to get a chuckle, I'm fine with that. Lord Cadrian will play at deadpan for the most part, which can be fun. And also, if people were going to ask me legitimate questions, too, how I've been plagued by this spell, Counterspell, that's ruining my games. Do you have a solution on what I can do to stop all magical challenges from just being Counterspell fests? I have two wizards in my group. Both of them have Counterspell, and I haven't had a single good magical encounter in weeks. Yeah, I'd tackle that question. So, and I think it could be useful, and I think it could be fun. So, those videos will be commencing as well. So, that's my channel. That's a little bit of an update for you. Thank you for joining me. And of course, if you'd like to keep tabs on what I'm doing in my actual real-life tabletop games, I do my State of the Dungeon address every week, generally, and it's basically how I keep my own notes and logs on what I've done, and yeah, generally seems to be pretty good, I think. Sometimes I get into character, depending on how involved the character is, so yeah. Thank you very much for joining me. I am, of course, OmnusI here in my lair. I thank one and all for joining me and really making this worthwhile. I don't care if I'm preaching to a house of 5. As long as 5 people are paying attention to something that I do, maybe giving me a thumbs up, that's cool. If you're interested in this whole gaming thing, feel free to like and subscribe too. I don't really beg for that. I've been told I should. Every time I do a video, I should be saying, yeah, make sure you like and subscribe, and hit the notification button. If you want to, that's great. If you just stumbled on this and you're like, yeah, okay, I'd forgive you. But thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. And if you feel like being part of the community, feel free to comment below. But I will be continuing to make these videos, and as another yearly treat, I know I've got the Halloween episode coming up, and I've got the Christmas episode coming up, and the Thanksgiving episode coming up. I do the seasonal things. Like I do at my own gaming table, I also make special videos for those frequently. And this year I have one planned for each of the holidays. So I hope you enjoy. I know I will. So thank you very much. I am OmnusI, and I will see you next time I'm here making a video for you. Farewell.